let's do a review or two before 4, as that's what you're here for.
Okay, so, big movie out this week, Stranger Than Fiction, which is this sort of sub-Pirandello, sub-Charlie Kaufman comedy drama about a boring taxman, played by Will Ferrell in his, I know I used to be crazy, wacky Will Ferrell, but now I'm sort of more serious, post sort of Truman Show period, sub-Jim Carrey, blah, blah, Will Ferrell.
Going well, isn't it?
Yeah. Discovers that he is a character in a book. The book is being written by a famous author, played by Emma Thompson, who is famous for the fact that she always kills her central character at the end of a book. So he is a real, live, breathing person who is a character in a story being narrated by Emma Thompson. Here's a clip.
Harold assumed his watch was simply on the fritz and never even considered that it might be trying to tell him something. In fact, Harold had never once paid attention to his watch other than to find out the time. And honestly, it drove his watch crazy. And so, on this particular Wednesday evening, as Harold waited for the bus, his watch suddenly stopped.
Sorry, does anyone have the time?
Thus, Harold's watch thrust him into the immitigable path of fate. Little did he know that this simple, seemingly innocuous act would result in his imminent death.
What? What? Hey! Hello? What? Why? Why my death? Hello? Excuse me? When?
You get the sort of general idea. Now, in a way, it's easier to describe what the film isn't than what it is.
What isn't it, then?
Well, I mean, it isn't, as it says on the poster quotes, funny and profound, comedy at its very best, or smart, ingenious and heartwarming, which is what the quoted reviews have said. It's a script by Zach Helm and not a script by Charlie Kaufman, who, gave us Being John Malkovich or An Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's nowhere near as good as them. It's directed by Mark Forster, who did, I think, Finding Neverland and Stay, who isn't Michel Gondry with the best will in the world. Nor is it I Heart Huckabees. It's a lot better than I Heart Huckabees, despite the fact that it has in it Dustin Hoffman playing one of those wacky, twitchy, edgy characters exactly like he does in I Heart Huckabees. It is clearly his great big character trope for the one in this, in which he plays a literary professor who the Will Ferrell character goes to see to say, look, I'm a character in a book, what do I do? And the literary professor, as played by Dustin, is constantly drinking coffee. And it's like, do you remember that thing, the comic strip presents Strike, when the woman who was Meryl Streep always had to have an apple in her hand because it was the key to her character? Well, in this way, he always has to have a cup of coffee in his hand because that's clearly the key to his character. At one point, Will Ferrell's character goes to see Monty Python's Meaning of Life, and it isn't that either, because it's nothing like as anarchic as Monty Python. It's nothing like as funny as Monty Python. It isn't anything like as funny or offbeat or kooky or crazy as it needs to be. Now, neither is it awful. What it is mildly ambitious, but very, very moderately successful. And I can tell you exactly the moment that I knew that I was parting company with it, and it came here. There's a moment in it which the Will Ferrell character, who's a taxman, who's got all this narration going on in his head, is having or beginning to have a relationship with a young woman whose tax he has been auditing. And in order to demonstrate his inner soul, he goes out and he buys a guitar, and he sits on the couch, and he starts playing a song to her, and he's just playing 2 chords. And this is to demonstrate that he's got this kind of punk rock sensibility in him. And suddenly, he starts singing Whole Wide World by Reckless Eric. Now, this is very important to me. You have to bear with me on this. There's a couple of movies that have used Whole Wide World by Reckless Eric in the past. Famously, Chris Pettit's Radio On, which is a road movie set in England. We know in America, a road movie, you go from California to New York or the other way around. In Britain, a road movie, you start in London, you go to Bristol. You get there really fast, and that's it. But there's a great scene where they go into a cafe and they play Whole Wide World by Reckless Eric. And there's another more recent example, Damien O'Donnell's Heartland,
which we were talking about with Mike
the other day.
A few days
and
ago.
I was down in Bristol doing a short film festival, and Damien O'Donnell was there. And every time I see him, I feel the need to embrace him and say, you and Whole Wide World. When I was growing up, Whole Wide World was pretty much my favourite record. I remember really clearly one afternoon in the late 1970s going up to the Stiff Shop in London with me and a girl called Lauren Auerbach, who was a dead ringer for Lena Lovitch, and she had a big thing about Lena Lovitch. And we went into the Stiff store, and there was a Reckless Eric poster on the wall, and I said, I want to buy that. And the guy behind the counter said, all right, do you want me to sign it for you? And I said, well, why would you do that? He said, well, because it's me, isn't it? And of course it was Reckless Eric signing behind the counter. And it's just a thing.
That's another one of your impressions.
But that's actually quite a good Reckless Eric, but I've been doing it since I was 16. 15. No, I'm 14 even.
Too much autobiography in general.
No, but the point about this is,
yes,
it's very hard to play Whole Wide World by Reckless Eric and lose my sympathy. And yet, when it happened in Stranger Than Fiction, all I thought was, no. No. You don't have the right to use this. You haven't earned it. You're not going to get away with it, and it's not going to work. And it was really talismanic for me that at the point, I mean, and under almost any other circumstance, I tell you, in the middle of Pirates of the Caribbean, if they'd stopped and played Whole Wide World by Reckless Eric, I would have said, you know what? It's not that bad. But in this, I just went, no. It's not terrible, but it's just so bland and so unaccomplished and so unremarkable that the use of Whole Wide World just sank it for me. And from then on, it was just a losing battle.
So basically, you can redeem almost any film by putting Reckless Eric in there.
No, but the point that I was making, I think I made it some length.
No, you did, and please don't make it again.
Okay.